This channel is all about maps, and here I have a groundbreaking specimen from 1804. You will love it. It's very rare and important, the first of its kind. But the cartographer, he really might have been the most interesting man in the world. War hero, entrepreneur, confidant of the Duke of York, the Prince of Wales, King Louis XVI, and Marie Antoinette, the greatest equestrian master of his time, and, I kid you not, the inventor of the modern circus. He was Philip Astley, and I'll tell you all about him, but I'm only going to do it because he also made this really cool map. And because this is the Eye of History, a channel dedicated to all things maps and map collecting. Maps are our entry point into all sorts of topics into history, the history of politics, science, society, and today at least, the circus. If you like to see history from unique perspectives, then hit the subscribe button and join the adventure. Born in 1742 in Manchester, England, the son of a cabinet maker, a nice, safe, conventional occupation that the young Master Astley loathed. When he was 17, his father tasked him with taking a horse to the Coventry Fair to sell. The young man didn't sell the horse, he joined the cavalry instead. He must have cut quite an imposing figure, being more than 6 feet tall, a giant for the time, and blessed with a booming voice. In training, he gained the attention of Domenico Angelo, the most celebrated swordsman and equestrian of the era, who took him under his wing. Astley had a natural way with horses, and was a worthy pupil. At 19, he was on the continent, fighting in Germany against the French. At the Battle of Emsdorf, Astley and his 15th Light Dragoons were in the thick of it. When the Duke of Brunswick was trapped behind enemy lines, it was the 15th that rescued him. They took heavy casualties, but they also took a remarkable 16 regimental colors, that is, enemy pennants. Astley was credited with capturing one of those himself. But more than just flags, they also captured over half the French forces present in the battle. So overwhelming was the performance of Astley's unit that the British Army created a new tradition, the battle honor, to commemorate it. From that day forward, the 15th Light Dragoons were given the right to list their victory at Emsdorf on their own colors, the first regiment ever so honored. Astley himself was promoted all the way up to Sergeant Major, the highest rank in the British military that wasn't for sale. It was the kind of achievement that they write books about. But no, Astley was not the inspiration for the Richard Sharp series. Perhaps the war had lasted longer than 7 years. Yet just a few years later, Astley was out of the military and out of work, his only property being a fine white charger that his general gave him. He wasn't the only cavalryman left unemployed by the end of hostilities. This is often a problem after a war. After World War I, America had a lot of unemployed flyers. In the 1920s US of A, those Army pilots cashiered at the end of the war found a living in barnstorming aerial shows. In the 1760s Britain, many a cashiered cavalryman barnstormed as well, as trick riders, performing in small companies. Astley was the best, and he soon had his own little company, performing in a field a little south of London. More than a rider, he was an entrepreneur, operating a riding school in the morning and adding much more to the show than just riding demonstrations. He trained a pony to add and subtract numbers, or at least appear to do so, and perform mind-reading tricks and more. Within a year, his show was popular enough to require grandstands. In the next year, he added acrobats and pantomimes, and the first modern circus was born. It had all the elements. First, a ring. The equestrian barnstormers usually confined their acts to a ring, typically around 60 feet or so in diameter. It gave the audience a good view, and the centrifugal force created by the horse running in circles actually made standing on the horse, and other tricks, much easier. Astley cut the size down to 42 feet, the size still used in all modern circuses. Astley had the animal acts, the acrobats, And of course the clowns, the classic pantomime comedians recruited from the British theater. And at the center of it all, though he didn't call himself the Ringmaster, was Astley himself, a massive presence with a thunderous voice and heroic repute. Astley's circus was soon both a permanent theatrical establishment and a roadshow which toured the British Isles. A trip to Paris came in 1774. Eventually he would build a permanent facility there, too, though by that time Philip Astley had retired from the saddle. He did not relinquish his role as director, but his son John was the new equestrian star. There was a performance at Versailles for Marie Antoinette, which led to building a larger, more permanent theater in Paris. A new facility in Dublin soon followed. And the roadshow continued as well. A European tour went as far as Vienna and Belgrade. Every time he lost a pavilion to fire, that happened at least 3 times just in London, he rebuilt, always grander and more splendiferous. He branched out with different styles of shows, appealing to different customers and different politics. He was a celebrity of the highest order, the son of a cabinet maker, now schmoozed with the highest nobles in every country in Europe. Even death didn't stop Astley. His shows lasted for nearly a century beyond, solidifying his place in history. Jane Austen mentions Astley's shows in her stories. Children played with Astley-inspired toys. Today, collectors salivate over the merch. There are several good books out there written about Astley, and I recommend any of them. These are rewarding reads. You get entertained by the story while you gain a lot of insight into the era, the society, the politics, the economy, and the wars. Amazingly, in addition to running this incredibly demanding business, Philip Astley somehow found the time to write writing manuals, books on military matters, a music book, and a book on magic, and 2 maps, including this one. Let's look at what Philip Astley created. The cartouche is straightforward. It's a new map of Europe, for sale for 2 shillings 6 pence, which in 1804 would buy you about 5 pounds of cheese. There's nothing here about Astley's circus business or his war heroics. This seems to have been a standalone business venture. The map itself is not a great advance on the cartographic arts. The landforms are frankly very poorly engraved. It's particularly obvious in Ireland. Just compare this with how Ireland really looks. The coloring, which was done by hand, is sloppy. For the price of so much cheese, I'd expect a lot better. But Astley went wrong with the title. The title doesn't say what really makes the map worth buying. It's not the borders and seas and landforms that makes this map interesting. It's all these lines going from city to city, all across the map. Those lines aren't roads or rails. We're 50 years ahead of the railway era. Each is labeled with a distance in miles. The whole map is just a tool for calculating the distances from place to place. It was a fresh idea in 1804. Although there were a few maps that showed distances, those maps still displayed the actual roadways. To get the distance from city to city required adding up all the little numbers printed along the route. Astley dispenses with any pretense of telling you how to get from place to place. He just draws straight lines and gives you the final answer. Here in the upper right, he provides a special aid for the Englishman, a list of major capitals and their distance to London. The furthest capital is Moscow, 1,921 miles. A quick check with Google Maps says that today you can drive there in 1,786 miles. That's less than a 10% difference. I imagine that today's roads are just that much straighter than the roads of 1804. Which brings to mind the question, how accurate is Astley's map? In this video, we took a look at a road map over 100 years older than this, of the roads around Chelmsford, England. That map proved to be gratifyingly accurate. The cartographer, John Ogilvy, performed a detailed survey of England's roads, having his people walk each road with a device he called a waywiser to measure the distance. Could Astley have done the same for all of Europe, even as far as Baghdad and Kazan? Let's do what we did for Ogilvy and compare his map with Google. We'll try the route from Paris to Baghdad and compare Astley's distances with Google's. As I enter the route into Google Maps, I tell Google we're going to walk the route. I found that the automobile routes can go wildly out of the way. They so much prefer the freeways. The walking routes look to be much closer to the routes a horse or carriage of 1804 might have taken. So from Paris, we go to Metz, then Strasbourg, Munich, Venice, Trieste, then Zara, Sofia, Adrianople, and Constantinople, then finally to Diyarbakir and Baghdad. Astley says it's 2,730 miles. Let's see if the world is still the same size. We start with Paris to Metz. Astley says 192 miles, Google says 191. Wow! Let's see if this keeps up. Metz to Strasbourg, Astley says 32 miles, Google says 92.5. This has to be some kind of misprint in Astley. It's off by 2/3. Well, we'll see if it gets any better. Strasbourg to Munich. Astley 192 miles, Google 205. That's within 7%. Munich to Venice. Astley 196 miles, Google 278. Astley isn't off by 2/3, he's off by about 30%. Astley is really close to the straight line distance. The distance as the crow flies is about 190 miles. So far, he's either dead on or way off, and it's a coin flip which. Venice to Trieste. Here, Astley takes a ferry, Google goes by land. Still, Astley says 90, Google says 93. It's a win for Astley. Trieste to Zara. It's called Zadar now. Astley 150, Google 160. Astley wins another one. Zara to Sofia. Astley 420, Google 568. Again, Astley is really close to the straight line distance, which is 418 miles, but he's still batting just 500. Sofia to Adrianople, or Edirne now. Astley 138, Google 205. Astley is way short again. The straight line distance is 195 miles, so there's no excuse for being over 30% off. He gets better though. Adrianople to Constantinople, Astley 150, Google 155. Less than a 4% difference. Istanbul to Diyarbakir, Astley 750, Google 778. Again, less than a 4% difference, and this is through the mountains of Anatolia. This is impressive. Finally, Diyarbakir to Baghdad, Astley 420, Google 485. That's a little over 13% difference. So in 11 stages, Astley is within 7% 6 times and off by 25% or more 4 times. It looks to me that for a few of the routes, Astley just measured on a map with a ruler, which doesn't work very well in the Swiss Alps or Montenegro. But he clearly didn't do that in Bulgaria. His number is way less than the straight line distance there, and the Metz to Strasbourg number just has to be some kind of misprint. But he clearly had good information in other places, like the Istanbul to Baghdad route. There are 2 other places we need to check, way up here. It's a weird pair. On Iceland, he shows Skalholt. Clearly he had never been there, as Skalholt is some miles inland, about 50 miles from Reykjavik. Today it's not much more than the old cathedral and some tourist facilities. I'm not sure there was much more there in 1804. And he has the Isle de Jan Mayen, an uninhabited volcanic island of interest only to whalers. 2 very odd choices. But let's check the distances. Astley has the Faroe to Iceland leg at 750 miles. Google estimates about 780. To Jan Mayen, Astley gives 780 miles. Google a little over 800. The Amsterdam leg is also just about 20 miles short, so is consistently just a couple % short for all of these, which seems to be his pattern. Of course, if he meant nautical miles, he was consistently about 10% long, but the map clearly states that the measurements are in statute miles. I can only conclude that Astley was getting his information from multiple sources, not all equally reliable. His main source was consistently a little short. His other sources were grossly short. Gathering data from multiple sources and trying to reconcile and integrate them was the essence of a cartographer's work. Every map in 1804 showed the evidence of it. That's the way cartography was, back before computers and GIS databases. That's one reason why diving into these old maps is so much fun. It's too bad that this map wasn't put together better. It had the potential to be great. It does seem to be the first of its kind. If Astley had handed off his idea to a better cartographer, this might have been one for the ages, the sort of map that every cartographer scrambles to duplicate. But let's be frank, for the price of 5 pounds of cheese, this map is a rip-off. A map like this can't have major mistakes in it, especially on major routes right in the center like the Metz-Strasbourg route. It renders the map worse than useless. The price was the equivalent to a half-day's work for most people, which would be outrageous today, but was in line with other maps of the time. It wasn't like the automotive age, when maps were a gas station giveaway. In 1804, there was no steam press nor lithography, which combined in the 19th century to make printing much, much cheaper. Instead, the press was driven by human muscle, and each map was colored by hand. And crucially, the cost to get the map into the hands of bookstores was many times greater. Shipping, advertising, warehousing, all the basic costs of running a business was far higher than today. So it's no wonder that Astley's cartographic venture was a failure. Astley's costs were high, so his price was high, so he sold very few. And all this is great news for me. We don't know how many Astley had printed, nor how many he sold, but it could not have been very many. And since these were not sold in a nice hardbound atlas, almost all were eventually ruined or lost. We don't know how many have survived, but there are only 2 listed in public collections, and my map is the only one in the dealer databases as having been sold in recent years. As far as I know, mine is one of 3 in the world. I doubt that's exactly true, but it's fun to think that it could be. That makes it very hard to value, of course, especially since the only other Astley map is similarly rare. All I know is I'll be keeping my eyes out for that other map. A complete set of Astley maps would be really special. So yet again, we've confused the YouTube algorithm. In the last 3 videos, we've covered a French star fortress, a cartographic rivalry over the source of the Nile, and the exploitation of the Pennsylvania coalfields in the early decades of the American Republic. The AI powering YouTube hates this. It wants channels that hit the same subjects over and over, so every day it can fill your feed with exactly the topics that you watched yesterday. So, if you like novel content made by human beings who love their subjects, there's only one thing you can do. Smash the like button, hit subscribe, and most importantly, put your thoughts in the comments. For nerdy channels like this, those comments make the biggest difference. So tell the algorithm what you really think.